It's an honour to be here today, listening to the talks earlier on. I'm already inspired, and I hope that you guys can feel the same, and hopefully I can contribute to that somehow. So I was asked to come here and talk about, can one person make a difference in the arts? And my short answer to that was yeah, but I've got to give a 5-minute talk. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell you a story about how rap music changed my life, and how somehow I went on to change many other people's lives as a rapper. So I rewind 16 years ago, don't do the maths, I was 14, and my mum was diagnosed with breast cancer. My sister moved away to university and I went to live with my nan. I was the kind of kid that sort of bottled up all my feelings. I thought expressing them made me feel vulnerable and weak. So as a side effect to that, I was kind of an angry kid. I was really temperamental, I had anger issues. And I just felt really mixed up, and then one day I listened to an album and it changed all of that. And I still remember that day that I bought the album that changed my life. It was a Monday, and it was absolutely chucking it down with rain. I'm from Manchester. And I was kind of trying to delay going back to my nan's house because as a 14-year-old it was pretty boring in this quiet, empty house. So I went for a mooch about in town, and I went to my favourite music shop. I was looking through the albums, and an album really caught my eye. It was this one up here. It was a moody-looking boy on the cover, transposed against the tower blocks, and the thing that really got me was the back. Now, I've been told not to swear in this speech, but it is called Rebels with a Cause. There's a little swear word up there. Track 3, Life's a Bitch. It really resonated with me at that moment. 4, The World Is Yours. Something about me just felt an affinity with this album already, and I was like, yeah, buying it. And there it is, Nas Illmatic, the album that changed my life. Fast forward 2 years, I'm surrounded by people that love hip hop. I remember going back up to my nan's empty loft room and listening to this album. It was a really quiet house. I lay down on the rough carpet and pressed my ear against the speaker, and it was like every song told a story. With hip hop music, it was like I fell in love with the honesty, with the rawness, the passion, the power. Every single word smacked. I just felt this is going to be my release. This is how I'm going to find my remedy, and I found my voice in hip hop music. Some of my lyrics up there, I've got piles and piles of them at home. I went on to do loads of things. I was able to get exposure through a series of mixtapes in Manchester called The City Is Ours. I was a freestyle battle rapper, which was able to let a lot of my aggression out. And I built up a really strong connection of music contacts, a lot of them down in London. Spent many years sofa surfing and meeting people, going to studios, doing a lot of gigs for free and just trying to get my break. And that's when I met Medicine. Medicine is a musical genius. He's actually the grandson of famous composer Prokofiev, so it's really passed down, and he's got a passion for hip hop too because of that honesty and that power. So together we just had this like connection, and we put together this album, which was my debut album called Set Yourself on Fire. Now, the name, I'm not a pyromaniac, it came from this quote up here, which just really resonates with me. Success is not a result of spontaneous combustion. You must set yourself on fire. And that just meant a lot to me at that time because I knew that nothing was going to get handed to me. Where I was, what I was doing, the place I came from, opportunities didn't come knocking at your door. You had to go out and grab them. And that's what I was doing with my music by travelling around London, spending all my money on train fares and studio time. It really meant a lot. On this album, I had songs that were just really personal to me. There's a song called Nadine that was about my friend who was in an abusive relationship. She was isolated and forced not to talk to her friends. There's songs about my mum's illness and trying to smile through it all, through student debt, pretending it didn't happen. There's songs about feelings of depression. There's songs about insomnia. There's songs about relationships. All of those songs that meant something to me, and I never really thought that it would have an impact on so many other people. I had a privilege of touring the whole of Europe, so many countries I've never been to with this album. I supported some of my favourite artists. I met so many people around the world and so many people that really said that my music had had an impact on them. And it just, I couldn't believe it. I felt now the person that was impacted by this music is the person that's doing the impacting. People had my lyrics tattooed on the skin. I couldn't believe this was happening. But when I found out I was doing this talk, there was one story that just really came to mind, and I reached out to her and asked if I could share it with you guys today, and she said yeah. So this is Sierra. She's a fan from North Carolina, and I'm going to read an email that her mum sent to me, and it's really quite powerful. She said, "My daughter Sierra was diagnosed with early onset bipolar disorder by the age of 6. She had a hard time in school because mental illness is something that is difficult even for adults to understand, let alone children. Her fear of starting middle school was so huge and overwhelming that she began to have panic attacks and anxiety. On the day of her orientation, she was so afraid that she was nearly in tears and began to bite her own arms. On that day, she also received an amazing gift. Envy, one of Sierra's favourite artists, was doing a live stream. To try to distract her from her anxiety, I turned it on to let her watch and typed a short note in the chat box that she was nervous and asking if Envy could give her a thumbs up to boost her spirits. What she received instead honestly blew my mind, as I watched an international music artist take that time to talk directly to a scared and anxious little girl, to comfort her and reassure her that she was backed by her fellow Envy fans who all cared about her and were proud of her. She reminded Sierra of the line from her song, Set Yourself on Fire, which says, 'What's the meaning of dreaming if you don't plan to achieve it?' I broke down and cried in front of a camera broadcasting to people all over the world as she told my daughter that she was a general in her Envy army and then had them write it on their knuckles so they would match. And that if the fear started to rise up, she could look at her hands and know Envy was still there watching her back from across the globe. My daughter still struggles with issues from her bipolar disorder, but that day was a turning point. Set Yourself on Fire has been the first song loaded on every MP3 player and phone she's ever owned. She grabbed that memory and held on to it through 3 years of middle school and 4 years of high school, and has carried a picture of Envy with her knuckles up to the camera in her pocket every day. I honestly don't know if my child would be alive today if not for the incredible woman who took the time to reach out to a scared little girl with both her heart and her music." So that's Sierra. It's pretty crazy stuff. It's pretty crazy to think that me, as a sort of angry teenager in my bedroom writing lyrics, could have had such an impact to a little girl in North Carolina. And I had letters from fans all over the world, so my question that I was given is, can one person make a difference in the arts? And my answer to that would be, ask Sierra. I think she'd say yeah. So this picture, a mum emailed me, it's from a graduation which happened quite recently, and she said she's 100% sure that if it wasn't for that album and the solace that Sierra found through the feelings and things that I spoke about in that album, she wouldn't have been there at that graduation that day. So, you know, it just says a lot. And I want the message that you all take away from this is that everyone, everything we do, everything we say can have power, and that power can reach beyond our own lives. It can reach to other generations so that when we're not here, that message can live on. And, you know, Naz from New York impacted on me. I've impacted on Sierra, and I'm sure she'll go on to impact on many, many other people. So I'm doing a workshop later on. It's about spoken word and rap. You can come and write your own, and who knows, you might write a rap today that saves somebody's life. So hope to see you all later.